The toughest material to forge in the knife-making competition is undoubtedly the Gundam family bucket of steel. Not only is fusing this material extremely tricky, but even if it's barely fused successfully, it can still break with a single strike, giving the judges a little shock. What the show organizers didn't expect was that now there's a 19-year-old boy who has voluntarily proposed to use Gundam steel as the material, combine it with the forging technique of Damascus iron cans, and employ the must-remove-the-can method to challenge the limits. As soon as he said that, everyone, including his opponents, was extremely surprised, but at the same time the judges were also very eager to see how the contestants would perform on the field. It was bound to be an exciting showdown. His opponent Ron, seeing such a difficult technique, chose a relatively easier knife type. He selected a Roman gladius as the test piece. Next, both contestants had 8 hours of forging time. They not only had to forge the blade using the Gundam steel and the must-remove-the-can method, but the blade also had to be double-edged with a central ridge. The competition officially began. After receiving the steel, 19-year-old Jesse Hu first used an isolation fluid to coat the inner wall of the iron can. To speed up the drying process, he placed it beside the furnace. However, due to the extremely low melting point of the isolation fluid, he accidentally set the iron can on fire along with it. Upon seeing this situation, the judges all suggested he start over. After all, once the isolation fluid ignites, it might introduce impurities into the iron can and make subsequent can removal difficult. But this young man was very confident. He didn't choose to start over. Instead, he directly filled the can with steel balls and then sealed it for forging. The sparks flying from the furnace were enough to show that the judges' concerns were not unfounded. But even so, he continued forging without any intention of starting over. In contrast, Ron on the other side was more cautious and steady. He coated the inner wall of the iron pipe with isolation fluid, and while waiting for it to dry, he drew a sample design. After the isolation fluid dried completely, he quickly filled the pipe with steel balls, poured in steel powder to fill the excess gaps, and finally sealed it for forging. After the temperature reached the required level, he quickly used a press to forge and fuse the steel. With the naked eye, Ron judged that the steel billet had fused perfectly and could proceed with can removal. He gently pried open a corner to observe the internal fusion, but the next second, he despairingly threw away the steel billet and chose to start over. This move shocked the judges. They were curious what the internal fusion looked like. After the competition, Ron said that he saw the steel balls inside at that moment and was certain that they hadn't fused at all. At this point, Jesse Hu had also finished pressing and forging. After some observation, he directly used a cutting machine to cut off a corner and then began to remove the can. However, due to the initial combustion of the isolation fluid, removing the can now was extremely difficult. Even the hammer flew out directly. After finally removing the outer skin, he despairingly discovered that the internal steel billet hadn't fused perfectly. But this 19-year-old boy still didn't intend to start over. He continued with the next steps. So in the end, could his knife win the victory? Let's wait and see.